I am the Managing Director for Janssen, which is the pharmaceutical arm of Johnson & Johnson. I look after the business in the UK and Ireland. For those of you that don't know who Johnson & Johnson are, we are the largest healthcare company in the world, a diversified healthcare company in the world. We operate in the consumer space, pharmaceuticals, which is my bit, and we also operate in medical devices. So we're broadly based in healthcare, and we operate both in prevention and curative or treatment ends of healthcare. So broadly based, we've been around more than 130 years, which is reassuring, and for sure, when transformation and disruption comes, it doesn't come from people like me, it comes from people like you. So I'm slightly worried that all of you are thinking about trying to put me out of a job, I'm sure. But for sure, for companies like Johnson & Johnson, we have to stay agile and think about how the future might change. Being around 130 years, having more than 130,000 employees in 175 countries, and annual sales of in excess of 80 billion, does not make us immune from disruption or from being victims of transformation that's going to be brought through by digital, certainly in healthcare. We are an innovation company. This shows you the sort of freshness index, so how much of our revenues come from new products into our pipeline. We're doing pretty well. We're not quite as good as BMS. This is 2016 data, but we are moving quickly. And innovation drives what we do. So we are excited about digital because it means it can drive more innovation, it can accelerate many of the things that we want to do, and we see it as a real opportunity. Comments have already been made. We know digital technologies are accelerating change and introducing disruption. I won't talk about these examples, but watch out, because transformation often means disruption, and it also often means disintermediation. So those that think they're safe and secure may be somewhat overestimating their chances for the future. So we know healthcare is transforming. I'm not going to repeat everything that's already been said, and we know, and I think many people would agree from what's been said already, that today's generation are probably the last generation that will know so little about their own healthcare. And the reason, and this has already been said, healthcare technology is everywhere. It's now quite normal for people to wear devices and understand more about their own health status. And actually, this is the start of disintermediation of healthcare professionals. I don't need to go and have my blood pressure checked by a doctor or a nurse. I can do it myself, thank you very much. I can do the video consultations if I need them, but in many instances, I can avoid the need, I can self-diagnose, I can take care of myself, because frankly, I don't want to have to wait 2 weeks for an appointment, or I can't be bothered with the interaction that's required to get in front of a qualified healthcare professionals, and more of this is happening. With more of those devices and more of the things that we've heard about earlier, it means there's lots of data, and that's brilliant that there's lots of data, but it raises questions and challenges as well. So who owns it? Who's the custodian? We've heard lots of discussion around that. How do you get this stuff connected? Interoperability is a real challenge, and a real challenge for the NHS when they're trying to integrate health and social care data, and it's a challenge for us also. And then with GDPR coming, privacy is complicated now. It's about to get much more complicated, particularly in the digital space, and much of the impetus for the regulations, GDPR, is driven by concerns around where tech companies are or have been. So for us as a business, we also, and I would agree with the comments, Carolie's comments, that putting armies of people out there to talk to other people isn't necessarily the way forward for our businesses. We know that our customers, and customers being healthcare professionals currently, are interacting with us and with information that they need about our products more digitally than they ever have in the past. And we are seeing the competitive landscape change, new entrants come in, new ways of thinking about things, and frankly, we welcome this. Digital will certainly enable what Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan are planning to do in the US. Roche, Friday last week, closed a deal on Flatiron, which is a company specializing in electronic healthcare records, particularly in the oncology space, and looking at how they can use data. And we made an announcement 2 days ago on an acquisition, a company called Orthotaxy, which is looking at how we drive forward more of the robotic surgery and how we can get more robotics into surgery, taking away some of the human error. It's quite interesting. I was interested by the panel discussion about the extent to which AI might replace some of that interaction, and healthcare professionals, understandably, would say, no, you must have a healthcare professional. But actually, human beings make mistakes, and they make more mistakes than machines do. So it'll be interesting to see how this space evolves. Wouldn't want to predict it, but there is more money, and the point was already made about new startups in this space. It's a very active area. It attracts a lot of venture capital. People are very excited about the potential, and we're seeing new competitors and new players in the space, and for sure they're going to think differently, act differently, and that's going to transform healthcare, and only for the good. So how are we responding? And an admission, I am a bit of a Luddite. Okay? I look after the commercial end of our business. I'm not in research. I don't work in our data sciences group. But my job is to make sure the technologies that we develop get to the patients that need them. We all agree. At Johnson & Johnson, we think that the future of healthcare has to be both collaborative and disruptive. The vision, if you like, of J&J is to transform the trajectory of human health in a very positive way for as much of humanity as we can. And we believe technology is a huge enabler of that. Our interest is in disintermediating ourselves. So if we can avoid disease and avoid illness, then you're not going to need treatments, you're not going to need surgeries and so forth. So things like, we have an initiative within the organization called A World Without Disease. So how do we invest more in what technology can bring to spot early when the body is changing in the ways that we don't want it to change? How do we intercept disease with new genome technologies and new ways of preventing diseases progressing so that we don't need treatments and we don't need to be interacting with healthcare systems. So we want to participate in this. There's some stuff we do quite well. We're a big organization. We're broadly based, consumer devices and pharmaceuticals. We've got a lot of scientific and clinical expertise. We know the consumer quite well through our consumer business. We've got good links across the entire network. We understand how complicated this whole thing is, but we also need to build new capabilities. So the message here isn't, aren't we good at these things? The message here for us is we need to learn new capabilities and build new competence. So things like advanced analytics is an area of interest for us. Things like data sciences, and we have people working on churning data and understanding trends and things in data sets that we already have. We also believe that an empowered patient, and this is a theme that you've heard already, and we have to partner with patients and help empower them, are one of the platforms by which we will deliver affordable and sustainable healthcare for the world, not just for those that can afford it. So this is a social enterprise developed in the UK, healthcare professional who himself has a rare condition, got fed up every time he interacted with the NHS. He had to explain to people about the complications of his condition, so what they might normally do for him, they may not be able to do because his condition was complicated and there might be consequences of simple prescribing decisions or simple treatment choices. He got fed up with having to explain that and thought, obviously the way forward here is an electronic health record that I own. So PKB claimed to be the world's first patient-owned electronic health record. The idea was bring in patients themselves, their carers, their families, as well as the healthcare professionals treating them into digital platforms that would enable them to take more ownership of their condition, participate more, and help with a more appropriate delivery of care. The interesting thing for us, we started by providing feet on the ground. So in my organisation, the commercial organisation, we put feet on the ground, we pump prime the NHS, we funded programs installing PKB into certain areas where we're active in terms of promotion of some of our medicines, because we thought wrapping this service around some of our product offerings would make a real difference. After the pump priming went, most of the money that the NHS had promised it was going to put in didn't appear, unsurprisingly. It's very difficult when you're trying to disrupt stuff, even with things like this that were awarded innovation accelerators because the NHS thought it was interesting, still struggle to get traction. So much of what you've discussed, if you've got a great idea, how do you get it to work? It's bloody hard work. Okay? And you do need to get to decision makers, and you do need traction, and you do need the backing of people that can bring real might. We still retain a strategic interest in this business, and we've invested capital, as have many others. Because it's a social enterprise, it's also very interesting for us. But empowering patients is an important part of what we're going to have to do to deliver sustainable healthcare, and technology is going to enable us to do that. It also changes the way we do research, and some of the discussions already happened here. So look at what you see here. So internet resellers take a Netflix, they take stuff that they know, and they apply a bit of machine learning, and then they predict what customers are going to like, and then they suggest those things to customers. Right, simple algorithm. That's also been applied in quite complex research. So in chemogenomics, there are things around products that are in development or chemicals in development, molecules in development, and how we know it works, apply machine learning and predictive analytics, and suggest screening. So what we're now seeing actually is development which is being referred to as in silico, meaning more computer-aided. 95% accuracy on predicting drug targets, simply on applying machine learning. We know with the decoding of the human genome how computing power has really improved things. We have a collaboration with some Flemish universities and a small tech company who are helping us to accelerate how we apply the decoding of genomic information and push that back into the system, which help us again with drug discovery, reducing commuting times from 50 hours to less than an hour. And that sort of technology has now been shared with the Human Genome Project in the UK. So the sharing and collaboration of these sort of technologies and applying these basic technologies into research is also going to be huge. And if you've read, which I hope you have, the Life Sciences Industrial Strategy, which was pulled together by Professor Sir John Bell, did a great job with a suggestion for government to respond back, has the red thread of technology, digital, running all the way through it. And the way that we'll unlock the power and the value of the NHS and the size and scale of the NHS is through technology, and it's critical that we're able to do that. And there's a vision he has for the future of healthcare and research in the UK, which is very much predicated upon being able to grasp that nettle. Other things that we do is we wrap things around our products, so not just PKB, we have mobile platforms that help with the basic stuff. This isn't particularly sexy, but it is the fundamentals of how do you improve adherence, how do you improve some of the experiences that the patients have and the additional bits of information they might need when they're taking medications. This is a platform we've taken globally, and we're seeing improving participation in many of those. Look, this is not unique to us, but this is what all businesses are doing, which is we're transforming the way we interact with our customers. So how do we get a really good customer journey at every point of interaction? How do we add value? How do we help them get the best out of the interaction and experience with us? And how do we help them come back to us on a repeated basis? And we have to be very good at this stuff, because these are now table stakes. If you're not good at this, you can't play. So, just to say, in summary, that healthcare will be altered, which is the most important point. If we can grasp the opportunity that digital provides in healthcare, it will help us deliver exceptional science and clinical innovation. It will mean, with data at every point along the way and the application of analytics and advanced analytics to power some of those insights and this connectivity with people, we can make a difference to billions of lives across the world, making people live healthier and happier lives. And this democratization of healthcare, I think, is my prediction. It is going to lead to the disintermediation of some people that currently play in healthcare, so they better get ready for it.